Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the wrap up edition of Great Starting Again, which is a series that we have had on Unplugged for the last 3 weeks. This is the fourth week. And today we're looking at some of the reasons why brands fail and how they can start again. So we're going to have what I believe is going to be a masterclass from somebody who I find it's a great pleasure and a great honor to have him, someone I'm proud to call my cousin. His name is Maple Dappa. He's the chief consultant of Mid-Mount Resort Limited. And how is he my cousin, you ask? Well, if you know, you know, right? If you don't know, you don't know. But we are cousins, right?
Yeah, we are.
So, Maple, welcome. And I'd like to share a little bit
Thank
of your bio. I'd like to share a little bit of your bio. Maple is the chief consultant of Mid-Mount Limited. It's a business consulting firm which is focused on brand development with complementary support services. Maple is also a certified management consultant and a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants with over a decade's experience working with different companies across almost all sectors of the Nigerian economy. He's also an author. You should check out his books. I think he has e-copies and also hard copies. Seeds of Greatness, and to the girls and the guys who love them, it's not a love story like that. It's something that you really need to know. I've read the book, and it's a great book. You know. And at leisure, Maple writes on business, career, branding, leadership, his gym attendance, and food. He did- he did- he- he's a foodie, hence he has to go to the gym, you know. And he also writes about life and other areas of interest. And currently, Maple lives in Port Harcourt with his family and with his cousins like me. So those of you who are not his cousins, sorry. Maple, it is an honor to have you with us today. Welcome to Unplugged.
Thank you, cause. Thank you. So I moved from being a follower of the program to being a guest. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. I thought I should
Thank
save
you.
my
I'm
cousin
pleased to
for the
be here.
last. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, it's a honor. It's a honor. Thank you. Thank you.
So, can you share with us and everybody who will listen thereafter a bit of your journey towards becoming a brand expert and a business consultant? What led you here?
Okay, well, there are different parts that have to come together to lead me here. But my journey actually started just after university in 2006. I think November, I was done with school in November 2006. And I started thinking deep and long with regards to what I wanted to do. Now, while I was in school during my ITA, I was privileged to work with an oil servicing firm. And in the course of that work, I was able to practice a bit of what I studied in school, marine engineering. So it gave me a bit of insight as to the marine engineering world, if it was something I wanted to do or not. And it was clear, I was convinced without having an alternative, by the way. So I must be honest that I didn't have an alternative. I didn't know what else it was I wanted to do, but I was certain that marine engineering was not something I wanted to do for so many reasons based on my experience out there on the field. I felt I had more to give out to the world, to contribute to lives and all of that. And I wasn't going to let economic consideration alone define the course of my life for another 20 to 30 years before I become an old man. So, in the course of my in the course of my youth service, of course, before I went for youth service, I started sharing my ideas and thoughts with some friends. Now, I grew up as a regular young person in Port Harcourt. You know, I partied. You know, I had a good time, made friends, and all of that. And I didn't throughout my stay in school. I wasn't really what do you call it? I wasn't really familiar with the whole purpose thing, with the whole impact thing. These days, anywhere you turn, everybody talks about purpose and impact, but that wasn't really the
Absolutely.
case. Yeah, when I was going to school, the whole mentorship thing, my coach and all of that, it wasn't in existence for me in my own world when I went to school. So, but there was this awakening that I felt. I didn't have names for it. I didn't know whether it was purpose or whatever, but I felt that I had noticed young people in other parts of the world. Then I communicated a lot with a lot of young people through Yahoo Messenger and through a platform that was called High Five. So I had lots of friends. I had friends in Canada, I had friends in the US. So I was concerned with regards to what young people were doing all around the world, and even Lagos at the time, and I was in Port Harcourt. So I wasn't seeing young people in Port Harcourt doing any of such things or even being interested in things like that. So just the regular go to school, get a job, and just live a life kind of thing. So something was stirred up in me. So I started speaking to some friends. Of course, as usual, most friends would mock because they don't also understand what it was. But I don't blame them. I also did not understand what it was that I was saying to them. But I spoke to a friend of mine, April Abasa. She's married now, so I don't know if she's dropped the surname and picked on another surname. But April Abasa at the time, she was the only person who understood what I was saying, helped me to articulate it better, and say, see, I know what you're trying to get at, and I think I have what to recommend to you. Now, it was a program that she had attended. Interestingly, April dropped out of that program. She felt it was too much for her. She felt she wasn't so sure if it was something she wanted to do, so she dropped out. But dropping out did not stop her from recommending me for that program by Leap Africa. It was actually a life-changing encounter for me as a person. So she said, see, Leap Africa is going to help you walk you through this idea of yours. Actually, at the time, I wanted to start a motivational school. That's what I called it. That's what I
Okay.
was telling people. Even though after a while, it turned out that that was not what I really wanted to do. But it was the only way I could express it at the time. It was actually capacity building I wanted to do, training and development for young people. So April recommended me for Leap Africa, and they had this screening process where the fact that you are interested and you apply doesn't mean you are going to be selected. So first, who is recommending you, and then secondly, how many other people are applying for the program for that year, and so they have to do their selection based on that. Luckily, I was selected, and to cut long story short, I went through that program. That program lasted for about 17 months. It was the first of its kind for me. All I knew was maths, English, integration, differentiation, and of course my university courses. That was the first time I was going through any form of personal development training or whatsoever. Of course, outside of church setting as well. So we do get pep talks in church. But with regards to any form of personal development or whatever, that was the first time. And it was holistic, it was well articulated. It had different phases. It had a total of about 3 phases, and then the fourth phase was the graduation phase. So it took a total of 17 months. It even required me to execute a project. It was called Change Project. So I had to execute a change project, which was part of the conditions for me to graduate at the time. And so the first training held in Port Harcourt. The first phase was in Port Harcourt. And I think at the end of the day, we were about 28. Everybody dropped out except for 4. And
Wow.
out of the four, 2 actually came from another state to participate. So we actually only 2 young people in Port Harcourt who graduated. So for me, that was more like a validation for what I wanted to do, that young people need to do better in my city. The second phase came, I think, after about 6 months in Oka. So I had to move to Oka. Then I was already at youth service. So from where I was serving, that's in Ebonyi State, I traveled to Oka. I took permission and traveled to Oka to be a part of the next phase of the training, which was like a skills workshop. So they had taught us the theory, the concept, the strategies, and all that. So the next phase was for you to understand the how. So the first phase was more or less like the what you need to know, what you need to do, what you can do, and all that. And then the second phase of the training was how to do it. So then I learned things like negotiation skills, because we're asked to go out. You are asked to go out and bring the picture of the governor of the state without a dime in your pocket. So you have to go meet the CEO of a company to get his permission to take out the frame of the governor. And he doesn't know you from nowhere. So how do you convince him to trust you to take the frame and that you're going to bring the frame back? We're asked to go get receipts for petrol at the filling station. Lots of things that we're asked to do, and so if you bring receipt from a filling station, then you are now going to be asked, did you actually buy fuel? If you did not buy fuel, but you got receipt, that's fraudulent. How did
There's
you get the
ethical
receipt?
issues there. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So they taught us ethical issues without the theory. We had learned it in class, but now this was practical. And as at that time, we couldn't make the correlation between the tasks they were giving to us and what we had learned. It was after each task, they now take us back to say, see what we taught you. Can you see how it plays out in real life and all of that? So that was the second phase. The third phase was a personal one, which had to do with my project, which I conducted at the primary school in a village in Ebonyi State, close to Afikpo, where I served. So I noticed that the school had a lot of brilliant children, but they had challenges with spelling and writing and understanding the meaning of words. So I conducted a project titled Get Nigeria Reading, Rural Enlightenment Campaign. So I was able to raise funds in addition to the support fund that Leap Africa also provided at the time. And I bought dictionaries to set up the first library in the school. So it was a mini library, of course, with up to 20 dictionaries. The school had close to about 300 students, so I couldn't get that much dictionary. So we had to set up a library where the dictionaries belong to the school, donated to the school, and then the children can come periodically to the library corner and make use of it. That way, the 20 dictionaries can serve as many as possible, as against gifting it out to each individual. But in all of this, I was learning organization, I was learning structure, I was learning strategy. I was learning the things that till today forms the foundation for what I do for organizations as well. It was that robust, it was that extensive and even intensive. And then the last phase was the graduation phase. So we had to travel all the way to Lagos. People came from different states. Young people from different states came to Lagos for the graduation. And we had to now learn a bit of adventure because they took us to Takwa Bay. And for you to get to Dappa at Lagos, you have to go by boat. And by the time we got to Lagos, it was sometime around past 9. That was when we landed
PM.
at 9 p.m. We landed at Ojota. Of course, we had
Whoa.
to travel by road. We didn't have money to fly, so we had to travel by road. And the roads were really, really bad at that time. Not now that the roads are a lot better. And then from Ojota all the way to Bonny Cantonment, where we're going to board a boat, took us about almost another 2 hours, traffic and all that. So by past 10, we were on the sea, crossing to Takwa Bay.
Oh.
We all did not know how to swim.
Wow, that's such an adventure.
Yes. So of course, because I'm from a riverine place, I'm used to traveling on sea, even though I don't know how to travel. So there is this confidence that I have. So somehow my colleagues assumed that I know how to swim because I was the only person who was not frightened. So everybody was holding on to my trouser in the boat. So, but then I was frightened, to be very honest. I was frightened. It was dark, the ocean current was strong, tugboats and vessels were moving around, and so they were also sending waves our way. But I just put myself together, but internally, I'm like, this people holding my trust. If you know what's going on in my heart, even better hold on to heaven at this point. Anyway, graduation happened, met a lot of people. We were all fired up to go out there to make change happen for our beloved country. We're taught patriotism and all of that, of course, from an objective point of view. So I asked myself, yes, I love the country, no doubt, but then I also need to build a career. I also need to build a life. I need income. So what exactly do I have to do? So I had to rethink the idea I had, everything I was trying to do to see how it could finally land me at somewhere. So the problem that gave me the greatest concern was what gave birth to me going into branding. Honestly, when I started branding and brand development, I did not know what it was called.
Okay.
And an experience was all I had in my head, which had to do with a pencil. I can't even remember the exact details anymore. But somebody had a pencil that was a gift from France. And someone else asked for the pencil. Please, can I use it? Either a pencil or a biro. A biro, actually. Can I use your biro? And that person said, I'm sorry, I can't give you this one. It's a gift from Paris. But I have this other one I can give to you. Take. So the person brought the one that was bought from
This,
Aboki.
this time.
The person brought out, I don't want to say your type, but the person brought out the biro that was bought from an Aboki for maybe 20 naira thereabout and gave out. So it scared me. What is it about this biro from Paris? What is it about these people, all the way from France? What did they do with this biro? What makes us so attached, to the things that come from abroad? The way we cherish gift items from abroad, it got me thinking, it got me curious. I started thinking, I started studying, I started reading about brands, foreign brands, how exactly do they develop these brands and all of that. At the time, we still had this, would I say, I don't want to use hatred. Hatred is a strong term, but this dislike for even Nigerian movies,
Okay.
we're just gradually shifting from the days of Jaru, the days of Jay-Z, because those were the kind of music we
Man, you're
danced to
old
when
small.
parties. And then we started having plantation boys, and so we're shifting. So if
Yeah.
we're at the party and you're not playing Nigerian music, it looks like the DJ you brought doesn't know what's going on. So there was this shift gradually happening. And then it was also like the beginning point of the movie thing, even though at that time the disapproval for Nigerian movies was still
It
very
was high.
high. We
Yeah.
didn't have cinema standard movies like we're beginning to see now. So it got me thinking, what did they do about? I mean, I see the streets abroad and the streets are looking so clean, everything looks so organized. My friends and relatives who come back tell me how the train system works, everything, timeliness, and it gave me concern that how can our society get to be like this? I don't want to run for election to gain political power to do what I can do. I can't run election. I can play behind the scene, but not to run for office. Well, maybe someday in the future I may have a change of mind, but presently and even back then, no. So I said, what exactly can I do? And I can't change the entire thing. I won't be able to change every single thing. I can only do what I can from my own corner.
True.
And then I started thinking that, okay, I can work with businesses, I can work with organizations and help them to, improve the standards and the processes, they have to go through to provide their services and their products. Get their products and services to that level where it's admirable, it's appealing, it's satisfying, and it can be loved by people. So that was my entry point to branding. Again, I did not know what was called branding. I did not know what was called brand development. But I had a friend who was fascinated about branding. He kept talking about branding. And I didn't know that this branding thing he was talking about was the same idea I had on my
On your
mind.
mind.
And yes, and he insisted that no matter what happens, he was going to work with Etisalat. He was going to be one of the key branding guys for Etisalat at that time, before it was later on changed to Nine Mobile.
Nine
So he
mobile.
kept pressing. He was so anytime there is anything vacancy with Etisalat, if it's Etisalat or nowhere else, for years, for I think about 3 years, we won't rest whenever we have conversations and all of that. And he more like the oxygen, I breathe oxygen, he breathes
Great.
branding. But that's all he
Okay.
says. He goes to bed thinking about it, he wakes up. So at the point, he got me thinking, what is this branding thing? Let me go read about it. So I started reading about it, and then I started connecting the dots. Okay, this actually looks like what I have on my mind as well. Of course, I didn't find any resource, any book that had it exactly the way I had it on my mind, but I was able to see pieces of it in different articles I read, in different materials that I read, videos that I watched. I also tried to browse courses, but at the time I said, okay, I think I'd like to build a career and take a course. But I honestly couldn't find a particular course that captured it the way I had on my mind. So on one end, you're seeing things that has to do with communications from the brand point of view. You're seeing things that has to do with marketing from the brand point of view. There is research. There's so many angles to it. There is even corporate structure. There is strategy from different
Absolutely.
angles. There is even the design bit of it. So
There's
I
the
was kind of
psychology. Yeah.
there is the psychology of it. It's
Yeah,
so broad.
it is.
So I said, okay, I was going to take my time. I don't like doing things just out of excitement. I was going to take my time over time and understand the whole thing. But for now, I'll start from what I want to do. I didn't know how to sell it. I didn't understand how to sell something like branding. If you give me orange juice to sell, I can sell it. If you give me a table to sell, I can sell it. But that thing, that branding of a thing I had on my mind, I didn't know how to sell it to businesses in all honesty. It took me about 4 years, to be frank, to know how to sell it, to know what to say, because it was like I was just talking, I didn't know what to say. People were not understanding what I was saying. So I was earning income by being a guest speaker for youth summits, youth fellowship. I just go to talk to them about life and all of that. And then I earn an income. Sometimes you finish speaking and they say there's no fee, oh, we'll give you an honorarium. And then at the end of the day, the honorarium is one bottle of granite and 1 5 alive juice.
I'm laughing at myself too because I've been given a basket of fruits before.
You know, and I'll be thinking to myself, well, these people, don't they understand that I have to pay transport back to where I came from? Don't they understand that at least I'll need some change in my pocket? So that just went on, but I was also building my I didn't know that I was building my confidence gradually when it comes to presentation, because someday I was going to do presentation before, business owners and all of that.
Yeah.
So, but that was the way I was getting income, and it was random. So sometimes I could go an entire month and I didn't get any invitation to speak. What saved me was that I was living with my mother, so I know that I can go back to food and I can go back to bed to sleep on.
Very important.
But gradually, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I needed more work to do. I needed to get more organized. And then one day I got an idea. People spend money on printing already. They print complimentary cards, they print letterhead papers, they print envelopes. So why not talk to them about printing? I don't have to do the printing myself. I could be the middleman and all of that. But there's something I could offer, which is I could help to vet their content. I could help to spot errors, because the designers don't spot errors. They just work with what you give to them. The printers don't do that. So I could bring my editing skills on board and proceed with that. So I started getting clients, complimentary cards, letterhead papers. At least I get profit of about between 3,000 to 10,000 naira, depending on the volume. And then I got a printing partner in Lagos who gave me very good prices, including shipping it down to Port Harcourt. It was still the prices were still more favorable than the people I had here in Port Harcourt, and for the quality that he does. So I started working with
Absolutely.
him as my printing partner as well. So that's how I started earning income in business. So they call me printer, I answer. They call me designer, I answer. To avoid explaining myself on what brand consultant means, it seemed like a very big title. So I
I
dropped
think
it.
that task would be a bit easier now because people are a bit more familiar
Yes,
with the whole concept. But I'd like
yes.
to just interrupt the flow.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
shocked. I mean, as your cousin, I already know some of this, but I want because people have asked us that question, like, why do I fail in my business? Why do I fail? And a lot of
Okay.
what you've said has touched on some of those issues. I mean, we called it grit, but it's you went out on a limb. You were ready to follow something you weren't quite sure what it was, but you were ready to do it. But I'd like to find out, in your experience and in your informed opinion, what are some of the reasons that brands may either fail or falter? What are some of the reasons?
Well, drawing from my personal experience, before I even refer to the experiences of others, drawing from my personal experience, I think it has to do with not understanding what we want to do clearly enough. Now, we don't have to understand it 100%, but we need to understand it clearly enough to venture out. It's like going on a flight as a pilot or setting out on sail as the captain of a ship. Now, you are not sure how that voyage will go. You are not sure how the flight will go. You are not sure the storms or the turbulences you will face and all of that. But you need to have a clear idea with regards to your flight path. Where exactly are you going? What path are you going to take? I didn't have that. I didn't have that at all. So what happened was, at some point, I had to fail. An example is, I registered a company immediately after youth service to do this thing, but I did not understand the regulations that I need to comply with. So by the time I came to that realization, 4 5 years had already passed. And then I go back to say, okay, I just realized that I needed to be filing VAT, I needed to be paying taxes and all of that. And then I hear that, okay, I've defaulted for so long, my fine is probably maybe about 3 million naira. And I don't even make that much. And I don't even make that much money to even start with. So I didn't know from the onset. So it's like setting out to actually build a house, but not first counting the cost. So if my material, my building materials can give me a bungalow, I better build a bungalow and enjoy peace. So I can't set out to build a 4-story building when the materials I have are meant for a bungalow. So I think one major reason has to do with the foundation. But then when we are passionate about what we're doing, we run with that passion to the point that we also become sentimental, and we shy away from telling ourselves the truth that we've gotten it wrong this far. Either we want to alter course, we want to overhaul, or we want to press on that wrong path. If I set out for Abuja, but then I enter the road that's going to take me all the way to Lagos, at any point I realize that, oh, I'm on the wrong road, I used the wrong map. I thought I had the map for Abuja that will take me to Abuja, but I just realized that the map I've been working with is taking me to Lagos. I have to change course. But what happens is that a lot of time we press on, So resilience sometimes can be misleading, because yes, I could be resilient by pushing on, but then I'm pushing on in the wrong direction. So it doesn't matter how resilient I am. If I'm on the wrong path, I'm bound to fail.
So you need a compass.
Exactly. Exactly. So I need a compass. I need to talk to those who have done it before. I need to talk to those who are knowledgeable about it. I need to study as much as I can. I need to have a plan. Now, that plan doesn't need to be cast in stone. I should be flexible, but I should at least have that plan to say, this is what I want to build. This is what I want to achieve. Without that plan, it doesn't work out ultimately. And whenever we realize it, we should be humble enough to readdress it. I mean, after how many years of doing MIPMON, we registered in 2019 because I wanted to set things right. After all these years, I've learned a whole lot from my experiences, from working with different businesses, from learning from others. I've learned a whole lot. So it's either I want to continue doing what I'm doing, or I want to say, let's reset this whole thing. So 2019, we called our lawyers. They came to the office. They had a session with us. They had a session with all the employees. They briefed everybody, talked to us about the legal perspective to business, laws that we need to know and all of that. And we discussed with them. We set timelines and all of that. And then one after the other, we started putting things in place. We've not finished setting things straight currently.
But you're on the way.
But we are now, exactly, but we are now on our way. We are no longer on that other path that we were on. It doesn't take away from our experience and knowledge that we've gained. But if we're going to build the vision that I had from the onset, then we have to. One day I woke up one day and it dawned on me that this thing you're doing for everybody else, you are rebranding, you're restructuring, you haven't done it for your own business. And as much as my clients know that I do a great job for them, it's still not good enough reason for me not to go back and say, you are doing it for others. What about your own? So it was part of what led us to rebuilding, resetting everything, and all of that. So I think we need to get the foundation right. maybe I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I'll just drop a hint. We're working on a product. And the reason why we're working on that product is because the biggest challenge we face with virtually every client, mostly small businesses, but even the big ones, is the fact that there are lots of gaps in business knowledge. Too many business people were not prepared for the business world. Some got into business because they wanted to create a job for themselves. They can't stay idle hoping for a job that is not coming. Some just wanted to survive. Some wanted something that was going to give them better money for them to live the good life for different reasons. But we did not really go through the proper process of understanding business and the essentials of building a business. What are the fundamentals?
Well,
So it's more or less like we
cause,
have a lot of
cause I
accidental
want to say
contributions.
something.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I
yes,
want to say
please.
something. The truth about it is that a lot of people, even the big, really big blue chip ones, they'll tell you that what you're talking about, they learned along the way. You know, there was this slogan in social media at the time. I woke up like this. I woke up like this. Many people did not wake up
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, they woke up about like you woke up 10 years along the line. Like, hey, we better put things in order
Mm,
and make things
mm,
right. Because I think
mm.
for a lot of people, when you're coming from, that has also been my experience. When you're coming from a place of passion, I can do it, and you can't quite define. The best thing to do is to start doing it, and then to get that humility to say, I don't know everything. Let me go back and put things in order. So I think it would be nice to start off with lawyers and everything and do the right things, but I think it's even nicer to realize along the way that hey, I don't know it all, and because I don't know it all, I'm not structured in a certain way. I cannot attract a certain size of business because it does limit you,
Yes,
really. Even your
yes.
capitalization, your funding, etc. It does limit you. But
Mm.
so we won't let your cat out of the bag. Guys, please follow Maple at Maple Dappa on IG. He has, and Facebook. He has loads of tips I think practically every day. I follow him. Apart from him being my cousin, I follow him. I have my sister here right now. She she's probably wondering why is he your cousin and he's not my cousin. When you come back to town next time, you'll miss your new cousin. So I'm particularly interested. We are particularly interested in a couple of other areas which we'd like you to speak
Okay.
on, which you have touched on in some way. How does the personal brand, or does the personal brand affect the corporate brand, especially in SMEs?
Yes, absolutely.
How does that happen?
Yeah, because the personal brand gives birth to the corporate brand. The corporate brand, when well nurtured, grows way bigger in a lot of cases than the personal brand.
Yeah.
However, the personal brand gives birth to the corporate brand. So if the personal brand, for example, sets forth brand values that the personal brand itself doesn't hold as values, cannot honor. However, those values are set forth as the brand values for the corporate brand. The values will not really hold sway because the what do you call it, the employees and other stakeholders will all see that the personal brand that is giving life to the corporate brand doesn't go by these values. That's why we have lots of values, whether they call them brand values or it's called corporate values. Excuse me. We find those values just hanging on frames on walls, but those values really don't have expression in the day-to-day, life and activities of the corporate brand or the business in the case of a small business. So you are the one giving birth to the business brand or to the corporate brand. It is your perception. I mean, we have this experience a lot of times when we give advice to a client and the client says no, but I want it this way, and then we go, that's how you want it, but that's not what is good for the brand. You are not the brand. And they go, okay, I get that, but I should still have a say. I said, of course you have a say, but the say doesn't have to be imposed on the brand. Do you want the brand to stand on its own and have its own life, or do you want the brand to just be a copy,
Of
a
you.
duplicate of you? Exactly. Yeah. So we give life as personal brands. We give life to corporate brands. It is our worldview that shapes how we run business. It is our own sense of ethics that will shape the ethics of the business or of the. If we don't have any problem with cheating a customer as individuals, it will be difficult for us not to cheat customers in our business.
You're
It's
right.
the same thing. It's the same thing with customer service and customer relations. Because when we do training on customer service, we go beyond the regular rhetorics of what good customer service is. We try to understand the background of these employees that are expected to offer good service. And the reason is because they cannot serve in a way that is different from who they are as individuals.
True.
They cannot. So somebody had an experience with her workers. What was the issue? In the morning, they display all kinds of behavior and all of that that really gets her upset and irritated. How did you recruit them? How did you train them? It turned out that a consultant did it for her. This consultant is an European. I said, okay. So this consultant has the global standard and the global template of how businesses like this are set up and has done a great job for you. But this is where I think there is still a gap. These people live at shanties. Face me,
Absolutely.
I face you. That's where they live.
Matches. Yeah.
And this person doesn't understand their world. That before they take their bath in the morning, they have to queue up in front of a single bathroom. So they're already edgy because the person who is in the bathroom is taking too much time and they are running late for work. So they're already edgy. And then they get into a tricycle, keke napep, to get to work. And then the keke napep guy probably has taken one sachet of alomo bitters, and is in his element and does not understand that people need to get to work. He wants to stop and wave at every of his friends along the road and all of that. So they have to deal with all of these before they get to work. They are late. And then the boss is on fire. You're late again today. Supervisor is on fire. You're late again today. These people are coming from, some of them are coming from dysfunctional homes where they've not been taught how to, deal with others. They've not been taught how to manage sibling rivalry. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So if your training doesn't put into perspective these things, especially when you're dealing with workers who are coming from the lower class, you won't get the kind of customer service that you want. Because they are also personal brands. I believe that every single human being is a brand.
We
You are
are.
either
Yes.
conscious of it or you are not conscious of it, but you are a brand.
Yeah.
Now, these employees we're talking about as personal brands come to your place of business with who they are as individuals. It is that attitude that they reflect that offends your customers. But your customer doesn't go and say, oh, Jacob, who works at so and so place, treated me this way. He doesn't say that. It's your business name that he calls. I went to this business and this was how they treated me. He doesn't know who the employee is. However, his experience with that employee is based on that employee's own attitude towards work, that employee's personal brand. That's what he encountered. You probably have been warning that same employee about the same thing. So when the customer leaves, say, see what I've been warning you about, see what I've been talking to you about. You see, you want to rent the business. But that's that person's own personal brand playing out.
Playing out in the corporate setting.
Exactly. So our personal brands, to a very large extent, to a great extent, shapes the corporate brand. So we have to be working on ourselves. How do we get feedback? In my own experience, I had a high tendency of being a perfectionist. But I noticed that being a perfectionist made me not to be flexible towards my team. I learned through the journey and then I kept improving. But being a perfectionist, I wasn't letting them learn on the job, learn through the
On the
journey.
job,
I
yeah.
expected them to know it from the word go.
Because you're
It
eager
made me
to
also,
get up and move.
exactly, it made me
Yeah,
less tolerant. It made me so impatient. So even when they have valuable feedback, ideas that could make things better, they just hold it back because they'll feel that boss already knows it. Boss always knows everything. So I have to pay attention to these things and let them understand that you can talk to me. However, I must not take every single idea you bring. I
absolutely.
must not take, don't expect me to implement every suggestion you bring. But please feel free to bring it. Let's listen, let's rub minds, and we work together. And it's been very, 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 very productive working that way. So we need to know who we are as individuals. Are we impatient? Do we want more? If you are not somebody who wants others to grow and benefit, you won't see any reasons, for example, to increase salaries, even when the business is doing so well and can afford to do so. Because you always be thinking, why should they get more? Because that's who you are as a person. You know this person has given you 5 years, 10 years of their life to this work, and they still have to trek to work. They still cannot afford a home. They still live with their parents and all of that. I mean, you won't see the need to say, okay, what can we do? Can we have a health scheme in place that we can make life better, at least for these ones that have been loyal, and we can afford it as a business? I don't advise businesses to be generous when they cannot afford it. So it must fit
Absolutely.
into
Yeah.
your business budget and all of that. But if you're naturally that person who doesn't want to see other people grow, other people blossom and prosper, even the people who work with you, who grow that your business, they won't be growing. They will
You
still
keep
be
it
at the
down.
same level.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keep it down. I have a related question, and thank you for
Okay.
dealing with this in such depth. I have a related question. Like, it's something that you and I have discussed, and I'd like to frame it around my experience with logistics firms. Hmm?
Okay.
I've had experiences with maybe quite a few logistics firms, and sometimes you need something really fast and you pay for it for door to door delivery. The last one I had, something was coming in from Lagos, and it took 4 weeks and a lot of threatening because I was ready to take it all the way to the managing director. I mean, in my life, I believe that I just need to make 5 phone calls. I will know one person who knows one person who knows one person who will get me to the person I want. Before it was 6 degrees of separation, but I think it's been brought down to 5, degrees of separation. So I had this experience with these logistics firm, and what came to my mind was that the managing director probably doesn't know this, but people are eroding his brand. People within their HQ in Lagos and people in their branch here in Port Harcourt. So, what can cause brand reputation to erode? Because I mean, if they weren't like the best option right now, relatively the best option right now, I would not be talking to them again. You know,
Yeah.
but what are the things that can cause brand reputation to be eroded? Because many of us don't realize it. It could be even some things that we post on social media, you know, things like that that make somebody think, I'm not sure about this person. But please, can you tell us?
Well, there are lots of factors, but for me, I think if the brand is not intentional with regards to the image they want to build, not by mere wishing, everybody wishes for a fantastic image, for a fantastic perception, but wishing it is different from having a plan for it and being intentional about it. Now, what that means is that you have to, create an effective monitoring and evaluation system in place. I know a business owner, and one of the things he does for the chain of laundry businesses that he owns is that he sends people randomly that his workers don't know, and they stop by periodically. and pose as customers. They come with their clothes and all of that. He takes care of the bill, and they don't know this person. So they take note of the process and all of that, similar to what we call mystery shoppers.
Yeah.
Yes, and he does this consistently, periodically. So he's able to get feedback because when he walks into the place, the workers are all well behaved. But he hears complaints from time to time from people about how his workers did not behave well. So he's wondering what goes on. So, okay, maybe when they see me, when they hear that I'm coming. He also has unscheduled visits. So he had to stop being predictable. So they can't predict when he's going to show up. But beyond all of that, there must be an image management plan.
Okay.
And that image management plan must have other things that drives it. What I mean is, if somebody does something that tarnishes the image of your brand the first time, you won, the person remains there, the second time, the third time, then you are the problem.
Absolutely.
So at some point, you need to tell yourself that this person doesn't belong here. This person needs to leave this system. If you query the person and the person takes correction, then fine. If you query the person and the person doesn't take correction, you know that this person doesn't belong here. So there has to be check and balances. How do you get to know? Okay, what if nobody complains? Truth is, over 80% of customers who get bad experiences don't complain.
They
They
walk
just,
away.
they just walk away and decide that they will never do business with you, but they don't complain. So how would you know? People have CCTV cameras these days to even monitor the conduct of their workers, but do we really monitor and evaluate those footages from time to time? Or we just have it there as one of the things that everybody now has at their business places?
Well, on that CCTV, I think a lot of people check it to see are they stealing or doing some other things off the job. But the
Exactly.
thing,
Or
the
when
things
something
that
is
actually
missing, they want to use it to trace.
trace exactly, but the things that actually deliver value to the customer, which build the
Yeah.
brand, I, I, I think need to be
Yes.
monitored very intentionally.
But something very important that I'd like to mention is
Okay.
something I've experienced in my own work with businesses. It has to do with the recruitment stage. You cannot recruit a leopard and then somewhere along the line expect it to change its skin. It won't. It can only pretend for a it can only pretend for a while. It won't. So somebody tells us that, oh, please, can you help us get someone? This person that just left. We need to replace this person. And I say, okay, how much time do we have? I say, oh, please, can it happen in 2 days? I say, no. It can happen in 2 days, but it shouldn't happen in 2 days because
Happen
you
in two
need to
days.
profile this person you want to bring on board. That's why some organizations do up to 3 levels of interviews. They want to
Yeah.
be sure that the first one was not just a fluke. They come from different angles with the interview just to be sure, to look out for the consistency from the first interview all the way to the third interview. They want to know that, okay, this is true, this is real. So I think a crucial thing is, how do you recruit? What's your recruitment strategy? What do you look out for in the people you are employing? And it's a major problem with logistics. A lot of the people who are employed, no thorough profiling is done, apart from get the guarantor so that in case you run away with our money, or in case you run away with something, we'll know where to use police to look for you. But in terms of the person's sense of excellence, ethics, attitude towards work, no. I'm yet to hear of any academy for logistics operators in Nigeria. I'm yet to hear of any.
Well, because
But
there's
I think,
something for us to do.
yes,
There's a gap there. We can
I
do
think,
it.
yes. For example, using dispatch riders as an example, and my own
Yeah.
personal experience when I was running my clothing business, I think that before anybody sets out to be a dispatch rider, you must go through an academy. Not to learn how to ride a motorcycle. You already know how to ride a motorcycle, but you must know how to conduct yourself in dealing with. Dispatch rider shows up at my door and is smelling of cigarettes, alcohol, and sometimes my son is the first person at the door, and he now knows how to open the door. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Dispatch rider who doesn't know how to put his temper in check. So you can't you couldn't understand the description of the address I provided, and you're taking it out on me. You're upset with me. You're shouting at me on the phone.
Actually,
So I want to see.
I've had to ask someone to please recall their dispatch man because he was yelling at me, and I didn't see why I should pay money for the product plus delivery and then have somebody who will yell at me. And truthfully, as much as I liked the product and that person, I have not, I have not reordered from her, and maybe she thinks I'm broke or bored or not or something, but that's another thing. Why do people not seek feedback from lapsed customers? Because that's another thing that can cause brands to fail.
Yes. Well, I think we all like to hear the good side of us. I mean, I love when people say good things about me and all of that. So if people will give me negative feedback, then I have to prepare myself for it. I have to be willing to listen. I have to be willing to analyze and review and say what this person said, is it true? What can I do about it? Because I think a lot of people don't like negative feedback. But like in a training that we run, one thing that I always say is that a complaint is a gift to a business.
It
Negative
is.
feedback is one of the best gifts any customer will give to you. For every time a customer did not walk away but complained, it's an amazing gift you just received, because majority of customers move away with that feedback. And by the time you realize the effect of that feedback, it just may be too late. The business may be dead already.
I've discovered that, especially with the SMEs, but probably also with blue chip companies, word of mouth is like one of the biggest means of promotion and getting businesses, getting business customers for your business. And if you ask me and I just say, I don't want to talk about it, I've already talked about it. You understand,
Yes,
and
I
that
get
I
the
don't want.
message already.
Yes, yes. So it's important that we ask. I'll share this before I ask you the next question. I was having a conversation with my colleague the other day, and this is about somebody who has a lifestyle style brand, right? And my colleague said to me, I don't like the way that person talks or writes on IG. She comes across as was it arrogant? You said. I think it was arrogant and uncaring about people who don't have access to the certain services or resources that she has. And because of that, she's shut down totally. She's just shut down on that person. And I'm thinking, well, I kind of know the person. I don't know. Should I give the person feedback? I'm not sure how she'll take it. Sometimes that humility we talk about, you can't find it. So talking to someone is like, hey, you think you know everything. You don't even understand how social media works. You have to brag. You have to big it up on social media. So, but this is somebody who is even younger than the brand owner, who feels, I can relate. You know, that still goes to reputation, doesn't it?
It does. It does. The thing about social media, I don't know if this is a bit of a digression, but the thing about social media is that once you begin to gain attention, unknowingly, it actually begins to also pump your ego. Unknowingly, it may not be intentional, but because you have this influence, you have a lot of people following you. So somehow you become some sort of lord. Yeah, so the way you speak and all of that begins to have this arrogant tone without you realizing it. When I noticed it, even in myself, I changed my what do you call it, my brand, and that's why I use the coinage "your co-traveler." Some people
Yeah,
don't understand it and they say, I get what you're trying to do. Because I try to make you understand that the fact that I write and I have a lot of people who respond and all of that doesn't necessarily mean that I am better off. We're all on the journey together. We're all trying to figure out,
absolutely.
this whole thing. So I'm just your co-traveler. So for me, that co-traveler puts me in check. It helps me to understand that, see, I'm not above anybody. There are people who know way more than me, but they are just private people. They know way more than me. When they are talking, I should keep quiet and listen. but they are just private people, so they are not on social media talking and sharing. So the fact that we're always out there sharing doesn't mean that we are the most knowledgeable. I mean, that's the biggest mistake people make. Those of us who call ourselves influencers. So I think that's where it's coming from. And there are people who are sensitive to those things. So they notice when you talk down on people, you use condescending words. No, no, we shouldn't do that at all. So I think that's where it's coming from. And the person who shut down, whose experience you've shared, is not the only person. Just that
I'm
others
sure.
haven't
Yeah,
talked about it and we don't know. But there are so many other people
absolutely.
who, in their quiet corners also shut down. There are also those who they may not shut down, but it pushes them into despair. It makes them feel like, okay, what am I missing out on? Is there something wrong with me? Because of what certain people
Yeah.
say. I
And
read
that's
it the
very
first time I cried.
counterproductive.
Yes, the first time I cried and thought that I was a failure in business, it was a book I read. And the book said, if by the sixth month of starting your business, you've not made money, you are a failure. And it got to me. It got to me. But months later, after I'd gotten over it, I locked the office door and I cried in all honesty. But months later, it dawned on me that this person is not necessarily wrong in what they've said. But what they've said does not apply to every single context on earth. It doesn't apply to every single context on earth. So I have a unique story. That my story and my journey may be the only one out there in the world. And that statement does not apply to my own journey and my own story. So it's not a function of I was the one who let it get to me. But not everybody will be able to do that review and say, okay, I think I shouldn't react this way. I should just, so all these things on social media, for me, it doesn't move me. If I find that you don't know how to use words, you use derogatory terms, and all of that, either maybe I've learned to use the cool. There's this, is it snooze? Either the snooze
Snooze.
feature. I snooze you. If I still want to see your face again someday, I snooze. If I don't want to see
I
your
come
face
back.
anymore because you exactly, I just suddenly just block and just have my peace. But
Yes.
I think that those who are influential, who have a voice, need to be more careful with the
They
things
have a
that we say.
responsibility as well. Yes.
Yes, we have a responsibility. Once you have the microphone, figuratively speaking, once you have the microphone in your hands, you have to be very careful because you cannot tell whose life you're shaping by the things you say. And they may not even understand what you're saying. They may not understand where you're coming from. Or they may not know when you change your view and they
Exactly.
carry on with what you said. Meanwhile, you've changed your view, along the line.
People, I told you, I said 1 hour will pass in a flash, and it's almost there, and I still have questions, you
Oh,
know.
wow. I
But
agree with you now.
but I think we'll have to wrap it up. And what two questions I'd like to ask in wrapping up?
Okay,
How can
okay.
vision affect the brand, the process of developing a brand? It's development or death. How can vision affect that?
Well,
I don't
this
mean the
usually
one they put on the
scares.
wall, though. Not the one they put on the wall. The real one.
Yeah, this usually steers a debate,
Okay.
but I think that, everyone should have a vision for their business from the onset. Now, the vision may not be well articulated like the one we have hanging on wall frames, but everyone should have an idea of what they actually want that business to become. And it's also good to be honest. Someone told me, a client we're working for told me, in all honesty, when I started this business, I just wanted an extra source of income. And I said, that is fine. That's what you should have told us from the onset. Don't try to impress us with grammar and all that. Just tell us that I started it to just have an extra source of income. So that gives us the original, vision that you had. They will now be able to say, okay, so where do we now want to drive this to? And so on. So yes, vision is very important to driving a business, because ultimately everything you have to put together is a function of vision. If I do not have a vision for the kind of business I want to build, which is a business that can exist without me, I want to go surfing, I want to go skydiving, I want to just have fun doing other things, and business is still running. One of my targets for this year, which is something that I've not been able to achieve, it's satisfactory. So I'm telling myself that it's the plan for next year, even though I'm now working to put the plan totally in place by this before between now and December. And from January, I'm going to activate this is the business should be able to generate up to 70% of its revenue without my direct involvement.
Well, that
So
itself is
that's
also a
that.
process. So don't
Yeah,
get
it
upset
is.
if it doesn't happen in a year. It's a process. A lot
Well,
of
I'm getting
people,
upset because I want to go and play.
no, a lot of people still want to see the managing director, the chief consultant. Yes,
True, true.
yes.
That was one of my biggest fights in business when I had to put a system in place where I didn't have to attend to every single client. It became a fight. But over time, the clients understood, and that shift happened.
Yeah, but you have to carry them along.
Of
You have to
course,
carry
of
them
course,
along. Yeah.
of
Okay.
course,
We
of
have a
course.
question from Smith. Smith, if you don't mind, I'll come back to your question, but I want this
Okay.
for Maple to share with everybody here and all the people who listen again, because we are really at the top of the hour now. Share four things you've learned, or you'd share four hacks for starting again.
For starting
Let's
all
assume
over.
starting over, yes. Four.
Yes.
Three or four, actually. Depends on, yeah.
Number one, pay attention to the numbers, no sentiments. Respect to passion, respect to every other thing, but pay attention to the numbers. The numbers is like the blood of business. So once you don't pay attention to the numbers, it's like you have shortage of blood or you're bleeding and you're just gonna bleed to death if it were. So pay attention to the numbers from the onset as much as you can. Number two, take networking seriously. Ultimately, you get to find out that access is more important than capital. Everybody says it's money, 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 but I've come to realize that it's access. Because if you have the right people who are connected to the right sources, you get any money that you're looking for. So access is very important. And then number three, have a very clear business model. Don't be sentimental about it. The market is not sentimental. Before people give you their money repeatedly in high volumes, there must be something that your service or your product is doing for them, and they are not sentimental. In fact, if you have only friends and family buying from you, you've not started business yet. So it's until you start selling to customers who are not family, who are not friends, that you can now say that you have a good product, you have a good service, and you're selling it. Yeah, so no sentiments, no biases whatsoever. Have a very clear business model. It may not be perfect, it will be tweaked over time, but as much as you can have a clear business model. And then number four, you cannot do it alone, whether you like it or not. Even though you are the best baker, you cannot bake 20 cakes at the same time. You will need other
True,
people.
true.
Yes, So if you're the type that like to be the smartest person in the room, you'd have to rework that thing. It doesn't work. You can't grow, you can't expand, you feel stuck at some point. You can't do anything else. So you need to understand that you need other people. Train them, don't be afraid to train them. Some of them will take the training and run away, but still train them. At least you've trained them
That's
for
life.
Nigeria.
That's
Yes.
life. Yeah, that's life. Well, my
Still
sister
train them.
has said, let me just share. I think she has now finally accepted that you're our cousin. She says,
Okay,
"Wow,
I just
cousin
saw it
Maple."
now.
Yeah, she said Patum, but I think I shall leave it like that. I quickly go to Smith's question, which is, how do you ensure your personal values and interests do not mix with the organization's goals? I think we've kind of touched on it, but maybe you can touch on it quickly.
Define what you want for the organization, what you want for the business. You are the one setting it in motion. Once you have done that, and it's more like you raise a child, and the child gets to adulthood and says, I'm leaving home, I'm traveling to another city, I'm going to fend for myself and all of that. What do? You bless the child, you wish the child well. The child will still be in touch. This child will still remember heritage and all that. But you are not going to still dictate everything that the child has to do and all of that based on your own, opinion. I have a personal experience without mentioning names. There's a training we're supposed to do since January. The training has not happened simply because the person in charge, the CEO, is not in the mood yet. Training department, everybody,
I get you, my brother. I
yes.
get you.
Everybody has signed, plan concluded. We even had dates fixed. But then the CEO wakes up and says, okay, but this is not you. The training is not for you. You are not going to be in the training room or whatever. It's not for you. It's for the organization. And the thing the organization needs the training for is still an issue till now. It's the same thing when we say separate your money from the business money. So you can't have it all mixed
As they
up.
say, loud
So you
it.
set
So.
it in motion. You set it in motion and you let it have its own life. It requires discipline because we love control. That's just it. We
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
control. We love to feel that we're in charge. So we have this feeling that we're no longer in charge. I asked someone someday, are you looking forward to a time when you're not going to sign the checks anymore? And she responded to Fiakwa. But
Oh.
guess what? Guess what? She was in a seminar on how to build a sustainable business.
Oh. Oh,
So
wow.
she just couldn't get, the point. So we have this sense of control that stifles the business. It gets to a point and it can't grow. We're trying to conduct a research.
But
How
then that goes
many
back to your
schools?
vision.
Yes, it does. It
Yeah.
does. A lot of schools are struggle when the founders get to about 70 years, between 70 to 80 years old, especially when the children are, interested in other things, or the children are not even in the country. So think about your primary school, think about your secondary school. Has it really grown from strength to strength, or it has attained diminishing returns? It's this thing, a lot of old hotels, old businesses. That's what usually typically happens, because eventually that our sense of control is what limits the business from going beyond us. It doesn't even go to our own children.
Right. Smith, I hope that's answered your question. We could, I mean, maybe we'll have to do this again, because we have to do it again. You and I like to talk a lot, so
Yes,
we have to we have to do this
I'm
again.
always available. Yeah,
Look at
I'll
all
be
the
more than
questions.
glad
I have too
to
many
questions.
questions. Yes, so we
I'll
really
be
have
more
to
than
do
glad
this
to come
again.
back.
Yes. So
I'll be
I'd
more
like to
than glad
thank
to
you.
come back.
I'd like to thank you very, very much for being very vulnerable, sharing things. I mean, you didn't sugarcoat anything. You kept it very real. And I think from the quality of the um, comments we have, I think has really helped people. I think we've come up with some real life hacks for businesses, small, medium, micro, big. This comes
Mm.
across. I'd like to thank you. I'm really glad you're my cousin. I'm glad we found ourselves along the routes of life. Yes, I'm really glad we found yourself. I'd
I
like
have
to
one
thank
thing to say.
Yes, please.
I think it's important just to share it because I've encountered a lot of people dealing with the same thing. I ran a clothing business online. I was selling clothes online and it was doing quite well. Of course, at some point, foreign exchange knocked us out because we couldn't cope anymore. We're selling imported clothes. But there's something that I realized. I was selling almost every item you could think of. I was selling trousers for men, suits, shirts, t-shirts, leather slippers, shoes, sneakers. I was selling the same thing for women. I was selling for children, and of course, the capital that I have was not enough to run all of that. It wasn't doing so badly, but the moment a little challenge came, it knocked us out. And I'm restarting that within the next 2 months. But what I want to
Okay.
say is that it's okay to start from just one thing. For example, thinking back, I know that at the time I started, I could have focused on just footwears for women. Because looking at the numbers we were doing and our sales record and analysis, I know that if, for example, we focused on your footwears for women, imagine by now that platform is so popular and known that once women are looking for footwears, flats, stilettos, you just know that these are the guys to just go to, and you have, so it helps you to stay afloat longer. So if you're looking at restarting, I know we have a lot of things we want to do. You want to start a bakery business, you have different bread options you want to start with. You could start with just one or two first, and then add
And
other
get
ones
known
as you
for
go
it.
along the way. Yes, don't spread yourself too thin. Don't try to get every single thing going at the same time. Start with one, build on that one. Maximize your resources on that one. It could be just one service. Build on that one. Understand the market, build your client base, and then you can begin to add other ones as much as possible. Don't do everything at the same time. I think it's very important if you're trying to start again. Think about it and pick one, the most viable one, the one that was bringing more money, the one that has a higher profit margin, the one that you already have traction for, customers for. You could start with that one and build up and then introduce other ones gradually. Resist that temptation. It's a very strong urge. There seems to be a force behind it that wants you to do everything at the same
It's called
time.
social media.
Resist it. Yeah.
But you see, this is what our guest last week did. She started with bras, and now she's into other lifestyle products. Yes, yes.
Mm.
But maybe we could continue, and we have 1 hour.
Thank you.
I have to say 1
Thank
hour,
you.
but
Thank you.
thank you, everybody for joining us, and for those who stayed to the end. Thank you very much. For those who didn't stay, please watch the replay, and please share the video with your friends. Like our page if you haven't liked us already. You haven't liked our page, I'm sure you like our page already. Please like us, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Both you can find us on IG, Facebook, and YouTube on at Julia Jacks Consulting. Maple, thank you. Part 2 is loading for sure. Thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
cuz.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great
Thank you.
day, and bye. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.